Kumuvan, I agreed, and I wasn't too happy, but I realized I have no choice. And on Motzei Shabbos shlichus, I remember after shlichus, my father comes over to me and he tells me, because you listen to the Rebbe, because you're doing it, we know it's not easy, you're going to get a present. And he took out from his pocket a ticket, and he said, you're going to go to the Rebbe for Tishrei. And that was incredible, Kumuvan. From the moment I landed till Motzei Simchas Torah was 24/7, 770.
I'm Yossi Kamen. Welcome to Among Chassidim by Der Herr, an ongoing farbrengen about life as a chassid, our vibrant connection with the Rebbe, and inspired living shaped by the way he teaches us each and every day. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Lazar, how are you?
Aleichem Shalom.
Okay, thank you.
Amazing, Baruch Hashem.
Okay, good. Thank you for making time of your very, very busy schedule.
Not so busy.
Okay, so everyone knows Rabbi Berel Lazar, Shliach in Russia, Rabbi Rashi. Not so many people may know a little bit about the background. We've actually published in Der Herr some information about your father. But also I want to start a little bit with your grandfather, Tzvi Meir Steinmetz, that I know there's a lot of rich stories over there, how he became connected to the Rebbe, and also the poetry with the Rebbe. So maybe you could tell me a little bit about that.
So first of all, yes, I remember coming to the Rebbe. For us was also staying by my grandfather. That's where we used to stay. And it was interesting to see how he became more and more of a chassid of the Rebbe, like mamash every year became more and more. He came from, he was actually, in his young years, he was very connected to many, many G'delim. Like he always used to say that it was the Asif of Agudas Yisrael, he was there, he was one of the youngest people there, the Asif.
Where are you talking about? Where is he from?
This is originally from Hungary. Where the Asif exactly took place, I don't remember.
In Europe?
Yeah. And then he actually came to America after the war. He survived the whole war in Hungary, which was a miracle by itself. And when he came to America, he was looking around to figure out, like, what is the new Yiddishkeit, what does it look like? And the way you say story, he walked into some 70 Reshgocha Protis once for a mincha, and he saw the Rebbe davening mincha, the Rebbe standing, the way the Rebbe davens, and that's it. That was the moment that he decided, this is my Rebbe. He was used to all these gedelim, shaking and jumping and everything, and all the keilu, what you saw in Bechitzenius, and all of a sudden he saw the atzmus of the Rebbe, and he said, this is my Rebbe. Of course, it took a lot of changes to him to understand what Chassidus, what Chabad is.
He lived in Crown Heights.
He, at that time, he was also living near, he was working near Crown Heights. What I remember, I think he lived in Flatbush, but a lot of what was going on in Crown Heights. Crown Heights was the center of Jewish life in those years. And of course, there were things that shocked him in Chabad. He wasn't used to it. Many things he wrote to the Rebbe. And
but what's his background? Like, what type of Yid was he?
He was connected to a lot of different groups. I think the main thing was Siget, if I'm not mistaken.
So he's like a, whatever, yeah. Chassidish or something like that. He was used to it. And to clarify, this is your mother's father we're talking about.
Exactly.
So,
and one of the things that made a very strong impact on him, when he came to America and he became more and more frum, he stopped writing poetry. Even though in the young age, when he was young, he was looking in that direction. And he thought, it's not Chassidish enough, it's not... and the Rebbe actually is the one that pushed him time after time that he continued writing his poems, and the Rebbe gave a oris in it, and the Rebbe asked for it, and many, many times the Rebbe was talking about that. But it wasn't only that, it was also his work, and he was at a certain point a principal in the yeshivah El Meishe, he was a principal in Besrivka, he had Mason from the Rebbe. But it was very interesting to see how somebody that came from such a background, how connected became to the Rebbe. I'll give you a small example. The Rebbe spoke a lot about being Meiver Sedre, the Chassidish Sedre. How many people actually did it? By him was Chek V'Lo Yaver. Every Friday night we used to sit, no matter what, summer, winter, sit with his Einiklach and go through Terei, look at the Torah. But it was everything. It was Chazring the Rebbe's Inyonim, giving out Shmura Matzah. He was mamash a big, big fan of the Rebbe's, if you could say. The Rebbe brought a change in his whole lifestyle. Everything was mamash in Ma'apecha. And he became a certain point. I mean, I saw him already as a chassid, but he became a real mekusha to the Rebbe. Bechol Nimi Nafshe, he would, the bitul and everything was incredible. The way he wrote letters to the Rebbe and the answers that he got.
He would write to the Rebbe with his poetry.
I remember standing with farbrengens, the Rebbe was turning to him and showing him say l'chaim in a big cup. He had a problem drinking wine. He couldn't drink wine, and he would get, if he would make kiddush on wine, he would get sick for the whole week. And comes the farbrengens, the Rebbe turns to him and says say l'chaim. Sometimes, very often, the Rebbe turns to him and with a full glass, and he had to drink the whole cup, and nothing happened, as if he didn't drink it. It was mamish meivsim, on and on. It was. He had a strong connection to the Rebbe, but the Rebbe was stark mekaravim. I remember as a bocher to think, oh, the Rebbe is mekaravim, something is not the way it should be, but he had big kiruvim.
I'm saying, but he was also, it sounds like he was one of those people. Where was it? He published his poetry?
Yeah, there are 3 books that he published. Actually, his poetry is being learned today in the schools in Israel, and it's a lot about the Rebbe, the Rebbetzin, and Chassidus, a lot of inyonim. You could see how in the years the poetry changed. And the last years was mamish, practically only poems about the Rebbe. But he mamish got the nekuda. Like people that understand poetry, you see mamish, he got it, let's say. And he was able to write it down, and the Rebbe very often answered on things that he wrote. About the Rebbe, the Rebbetzin.
So I guess it sounds like he's a type of person that I'm finding through these conversations. There's many people that have talents and kashreinus, and the Rebbe Fakert encouraged them to use them. For
sure. That was the big shock for him, because when he realized that the Rebbe actually embraces any talent that you have, whether it's somebody that knows how to draw or paint, or somebody that knows how to sing, somebody that knows whatever you could do, use it for Afot Samayonis and for Shem Shemayim v'chulu. For him was a shock, because he thought at a certain point the poetry is not a positive thing. It's something that he should let go of. And the Rebbe Farkert pushed him very, very strongly about that.
Okay, and moving along to your father. Your father also has a similar geographical background, right?
Similar, a little different. But my father actually came to America, and Chatili was learning in Torah Vadas, and his brother was learning Torah Vadas, but it was when he left Europe, they ended up Chatili in England, and he had a Chassidish Rav that told him, when you come to America, go to Chassidish yeshivah. And the only Chassidish yeshivah that he found was actually in Crown Heights, was the Lubavitch yeshiva, and that's why his brother went to that yeshiva, and my grandfather, my father's father, said, if one brother goes to the Lubavitch yeshiva, then I want his brother also. And that's how my father ended up in yeshiva. It was just because of his older brother.
So he wasn't like Niskarev and Terevadas to people, like
no.
Different story.
And he was very young when he came here, ready to the Lubavitch yeshiva. So his older brother was already older, and he was already...
He was in Bedford and Dean?
Right.
So he was basically learning in the yeshiva. That's what happened.
Right.
So before your parents...
Father remembers the Chatchila used to learn, I think, in Albany, in Eastern Park. There was a storefront, and I think that Zalman Gurari was the teacher.
So before Bedford and Dean?
Right, a few still medium, and then eventually I think they moved to...
So I know in the beginning they learned in 770, so I guess in the Shins. So maybe this is the next stop.
This was in the Shins, but the later Shins, like I think Toshin Vov, Toshin Zayin, that's when he started, I think.
And your father's also very famous. Before he went on shlichus to Italy, he was like the miyastim of the miyasid of Gan Yisrael. The whole
Right.
idea, right?
That story I think is
that's
very famous.
That's famous. It's also been published B'nai Desha. We covered it a bunch of times.
The whole idea, very, very short, that my father was actually running the camp, was the learning director of Torah Vadas, and the
camp of Torah Vadas?
I think so.
So that Gouda camp?
The Gouda camp, right.
Gouda camp, yeah.
The Gouda camp.
Because the Lubavitcher Bachram used to go there.
Right.
Rabbi Berel writes about it in his diaries that they went there.
Right, so there were a lot of Lubavitcher Bachram, but he was in charge, I think, of the learning, or maybe certain activities also. But Nekuda was there were kids from public schools that were there in camp, and at the end of the summer he convinced them to go to yeshiva. But somebody has to pay for the tuition, so he went to the hall of the camp, and he said, that's not our problem, we're making camp, and that's it. And that really, he couldn't understand. How could it be? How could it be that they're taking care of kids, we make out of them, and then you let them go? And that's when he decided that there has to be a Lubavitcher camp. And that's when he went to the Rebbe, and whatever. The story is famous.
He fainted.
Almost fainted.
He fell. Almost fainted.
The Rebbe saw that he wasn't feeling well. The Rebbe said you should go out of the room, and when you feel better, you come back in.
And when the Rebbe came to visit the camp, your father was right there.
Right.
Okay, so then your parents got married and they went on shlichus to Italy. So what was it like for you growing up in shlichus in Italy?
First of all, the shlichus of being born in shlichus was, of course, something that we always knew. But I actually grew up without any, my age, no Hasidic friends. I was the only one in the class that was from practically, all the years that I grew up. And
you grew up in Milan?
I grew up in Milan.
Yeah, okay.
But there was a Hasidic community, and, I felt what was going on. Of course, the main thing we got at home, like the understanding was tait shlichus, was tait Rebbe, v'chulu, wasn't something I learned. There was a Lubavitcher school, the school that, what is called the Merkah school. But in those years, it wasn't the Indian to speak to kids about Yiddishkeit and Rebbe. We heard it very little in school. Mainly was at home. Of course, we saw farbrengens here and there, but knowing that I'm growing up as a shliach was the essence of our life. We knew that we are there on shlichus. I'm not there to be friendly with other kids. I'm there to be mashpia on the other kids. That was like from day one was clear that this is the goal of my life.
So, when you were a kid, your parents brought you to the Rebbe? Like, what was that like?
So at that time, the seder was that you could come to the Rebbe once every 2 years.
There was a rule.
It was a rule from the Rebbe. And even after 2 years, you had to write to the Rebbe. I think even sometimes the Rebbe was nishtatif from the itzos of the tickets. But for sure, without getting Yaskoma Bracha from the Rebbe, you couldn't leave, even after 2 years. So 2 years, you knew that you're counting till the next visit. So every 2 years, it was by the Rebbe. The first times I was mamish a little child, I remember as a child of farbrengens, I remember...
When were you born?
Chav Dalet.
So so this is like late Chavs, maybe?
Late Chavs, beginning of the Lamed. More I remember, like I was already 6, 7, 8. That's what I remember already coming to farbrengens and standing there for hours. But even for a child to see farbrengens was like incredible. It was like
I imagine
going to yeshivah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I imagine the family had yeshivah.
Right. So we went the whole family in yeshivah a few times. I remember small parts of it. And then, of course, for my bar mitzvah, we went to yeshivah. For my bar mitzvah, actually, my parents sent me to the Rebbe like a month before the bar mitzvah. So it was quite a while I was here. At that time, that was for sure the moment that I saw 770, 24 hours a day. I wouldn't leave 770 until the Rebbe left. And we were there early in the morning, so I was, as a young kid...
As a 13-year-old kid.
The English in 770 was amazing.
So you ended up coming to New York when you were a bacher? Like, how'd that happen?
So then, actually, I was here by the bar mitzvah. Again, I was going to Litera a little, some hours of the day, but mainly I was in 770. And of course, all of a sudden I realized that my dream is to come to learn in America. Enough of this shlichus. My parents are shlichus. I don't have to suffer because of it. I can come to the Rebbe. That's it. And there's quite a famous story. I said it already once, twice, that by my 14th birthday, was Shavuos, Yisrochak Shavuos Lamed Ches. At that point already I was finished. I'm done. I said, that's it, I'm finished. I finished 8th grade. The whole time they were telling me you have to finish 8th grade because that's the only way that the kids are going to stay in the school if you're going to stay. If you're going to leave, the whole class is going to dismantle, everybody's going to leave, these kids are going to be lost. So I had to suffer because of them, sort of. We're learning Limudei Chol in the school, which was also suffering for me. I didn't want to do it, I had enough. So I wrote down, my father told me, okay, now you can write to the Rebbe. So I wrote to the Rebbe that my parents want me to stay another year or more, and I want to go to yeshiva. And the idea of my parents was, again, if I'm going to leave, all the kids from the class are going to not continue. Bepel, I wrote to the Rebbe that I want to go to yeshiva, and of course I want to come to the Rebbe. But if not New York, then Brunois, which I wrote it's close by, so it's a mile, or Israel. And the answer that I got, interesting enough, you mentioned my grandfather. My grandfather also wrote a similar letter to the Rebbe. Found the letter later.
About you?
Yeah, about exactly this. My grandfather was mamish, very strong. They have to leave Milan and come to a normal yeshiva. And Bepel, I got an answer. My grandfather got the same answer that we're going to find 2 or 3 chaverim in Italy, in Milan. Then I should stay. If not, to New York. If not to the Rebbe. So when I realized, right away I got the answer, I realized that's it. There's no 2 or 3 chaverim. They're going to sit and learn with me from morning to night. The other kids in my class, they want to continue Limudei Chol. So that's it. I'm free. I can go to New York. That's it. My dream
Dream come true.
realized. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the Anash in Milan got together. Interesting, when somebody got an answer about the community, about the Meisdes, so the whole thing became a asifa, and they discussed it, and they said, the Nekuda was, I remember as a child and hearing that was the Rebbe Vesinch was controlling Milan, the Rebbe was telling, if you're going to find the Chiyere, there are no such friends. So what is the Rebbe telling you? Like to find what you can find? Of course you can find them, you just have to find them. So our job is to find these 2 or 3 friends.
So because of this answer...
So they had to look for 2 or 3 friends.
So that they wanted to make like a yeshiva.
Oh, so it was a dream of Geshem Mendel always to make a yeshiva. That was his always dream.
I think was there Rabbi Levi Grelik involved in this?
No,
I think he mentioned this. Okay, go. So
the story you mentioned could be.
No, but the yeshiva. Go ahead.
The idea of making yeshiva in Italy was by him, yeshiva in Reimi and Italia Shliach, and by Geshem Mendel was always this the dream. He had this big dream. There's going to be a big yeshiva in Milan, and we used to look at him and think, what kind of yeshiva? Where yeshiva? What yeshiva? Who are yeshiva like? Anyways, and I knew I was alone in my class. So who am I going to learn with? So there are no 2 or 3 friends. But he said, no, there are. You have to find them. They found them. One was 3 years younger than me, and became my classmate. And another one was Chaver, that at that point nobody thought he was going to continue learning the whole day Limudei Kodesh. And actually he did agree. And that's it. And now the Rebbe said 2 or 3, so we have 2, plus you're the number 3. That's it, we have a class. And actually Geshem Mendel taught us the whole year. He was coming every morning to teach for 4 or 5 hours. I don't think he ever did such a thing ever.
Like he taught you?
More, a lot. Imam Amish was sitting and teaching a lot of other teachers, but the Nekuda was we learned the whole day from morning to night. Keilu, started a yeshiva. Later there was another story with the yeshiva in Italy when they actually made a yeshiva. But that's it. At that point, they told me, that's it, you have to stay. I mean, of course, you have to agree, but this is what we found. We found these boys, and this is what the Rebbe wants. Kamuv and I agreed, and I wasn't too happy, but I realized I have no choice. And on Motzei Shabbos Shlichus, I remember after Shlichus, my father comes over to me and he tells me, because you listen to the Rebbe, because you're doing it, we know it's not easy, you're going to get a present. And he took out from his pocket a ticket. At that time, the tickets were paper, these, and... an
actual ticket.
Yeah. And he said, that's it, you're going to go to the Rebbe for Tishrei. And that was incredible, Kamuvan. Tishrei Lamed Tes, which was an incredible Tishrei, because the Tishrei after Lamed Ches, all the changes happened then, but it was still was an incredible Chedesh Tishrei. From the moment I landed till Matzah Simchas Torah was 24/7, 770. I was mamash a dream come true. Kamuvan, at that point I realized that going back to Italy must be this is crazy. Doesn't make sense. I'm here by the Rebbe. I'm going to go back. Anyways, comes Keshe Bracha, Matzah Simchas Torah.
So you thought you might not go back?
How can I not go back? Because they told me they have to go back.
They wrote this to the Rebbe? You don't know?
About...
That the whole thing that you found 2, 3...
Yeah, of course. Let the Rebbe know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Pashtus. I didn't write. But in Pashtus, I believe that Anash wrote. Or I don't know if anybody wrote. But the Nekudas comes Keshe Bracha Matzah Simchas Torah, and my grandfather went by, the Rebbe. I was after him. And I don't remember how it happened that we were together by Keshe Bracha. And the Rebbe stops me and looks at me, and he looks at me and says, "Das Machel gewen bleiben da." He decided to stay here. And Kamuvan, first of all, we knew that you don't answer to the Rebbe, so what I'm going to answer. And number 2 is what am I supposed to say? I was completely shocked. I mean, of course, inside I wanted to stay, but the Rebbe told me to go back, and that's what I understood. And the Rebbe asked him, "Das Machel gewen bleiben da?" I was shocked, and if I'm not mistaken, all of a sudden it was like the Rebbe speaks to somebody, it became shh, whatever. And my grandfather came back. I think the Rebbe asked the second time. My grandfather, who wanted me very, very much to stay in New York, he felt that going back was crazy at that time. So he tells the Rebbe, the Rebbe's masking. it was amazing that on the spot he realized that it's his chance to get a...
He interjected as it.
Right. And Rebbe was pouring the wine facing the crowd, like the Zal, and the Rebbe stopped pouring there and turned around and started pouring on the back. It was clear that the Rebbe was like, I can't say upset, but the Rebbe was telling me clearly that ich hatte schon geantwortet, was mit dem du tracht noch einmal wegen bleiben da. Like,
so that's how you understood it.
That for sure. For sure was clear that Rebbe wasn't asking to stay here. And Rebbe was clear that as my machshove, das machlit and bleiben da, and it wasn't machlit. Yeah, I was dreaming that somehow could happen. But Rebbe made clear that that's not what he wants. And then I went back already, and it was an amazing year. But I wrote it about a year. That was the Shaila, and a year later, Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe gave me a skoma, but I already knew clear that it's not Brunua, it's not Yisrael, it's coming to the Rebbe. And Baruch Hashem already, for Tisha Tov Shemem, El Lametes already came here, and that's it.
El Lametes Tov Shemem, that's when you came to stay.
Right.
So where did you go?
So I went to Ocean Parkway, and...
how old are you? Lametes, you were...
How old was I?
Yeah,
15.
15, so you went to Ocean Parkway.
So I was 2 years in Zal, in Ocean Parkway, which was amazing with Rabbi Ushpal, Rabbi Buket, Rabbi Lepkovsky. It was Dan Holiden. Rabbi Berel used to come farbrengens.
Oh, he still used to come to
farbrengens and teach, and there was shluchim there in Ocean Parkway. They used to send shluchim to Ocean Parkway.
A lot of people talk about how they were sent from 770 to...
And that was the only yeshiva they got to Rabbi Berel to give them shurim. Rabbi Berel used to come give shurim to the shluchim, so he used to sneak in, and then Rabbi Berel used to come farbrengens for the whole yeshiva sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So just give me a little bit the lay of the land, and then we'll go back to it. So you were in Ocean Parkway, and then...
Tov Shemem Mem Aleph, I was in Ocean Parkway, and then actually at the end of Mem Aleph, at that point decided we're going to go, a group of Bochum decided we're going to go to Teras Emes. That was considered then the yeshiva, if you're trying to, was the yeshiva, Kemuvan. The knowledge yeshiva told me clearly they're not giving me reshus. At that time, I don't know how it is today, but at that time you wouldn't be able to go leave the yeshiva without the Askam of Dan Hola. You can't switch to a different yeshiva without Askam of Dan Hola. No yeshiva used to take you unless the previous Dan Hola gave permission. And the knowledge said you can't. I remember having a conversation, and they told me, was ist schlecht, das ist gut. I said, if good is good, it's besser, nicht besser. They said, no, das bleiben da. Kitzur, and I was supposed to go to Marston. That was the original plan. And then all of a sudden started this whole idea, again, about the yeshiva in Italy. They decided that this is a moment to start a yeshiva in Italy. There was a lot of local bochrim that would have been ready to go to yeshiva and not go to university or whatever if they would have opened the yeshiva. And they drove me crazy that I should go to go as the shlichus to Italy. It was actually before Marston. So normally all the bochrim went on shlichus at the end of Marston. 3 years later, told me, no, you're going to go now. It's Shas HaKesher, Pikuach Nefesh, Maise, the Rebbe, Chadakov, was like a lot of in and out. But we went out, then was on shlichus. And then it was supposed to be a year. It was clear a year. And as usual, after the year, they said, you can't leave it now. You have to continue, otherwise the yeshiva is going to fall apart. So we went back for half a year. Then was klar, mamish boror kashemesh, that it's going to be for half a year. Before we went to Yiddishkeit, Gnei Natachten, the Rebbe gave us Chtavim Klalim and Broches and everything. And one time, before Yidal Nissen, that's it, we knew that's it, the shlichus is over. We said a year, and then half a year, klar. And then again, Yeshmendel said, no, you have to stay another half a year. How could we stay? That's it, was Ogeret Lechatchila. So the shaila was, are you sure that you fulfilled everything that the Rebbe told in the Yichidus? Are you sure you did everything that the Rebbe said? Kids are back and forth.
It's a trap.
Yeah. Back and forth. The achlata was, we should write to the Rebbe, and whatever the Rebbe says, we're going to do. So of course we wrote a letter to the Rebbe, we showed it to him, and he said, and the letter was that if the Rebbe, V'teisen, we're ready to stay till the end of the Shnas HaLimudim. And Geshmenu saw the letter, he says, no, that's not the way you write it. If the Rebbe V'teisen, we're ready to go back, B'simcha v'tuv levav. That's the way you write it to the Rebbe. So of course we added those words, and the answer was, Rebbe crossed out, no, if not, Rebbe underlined, B'simcha v'tuv levav. So we stayed another few months, and then that's it. Then later I went for 1 year to Marston, but I told Anholder right away, that's it. My 2 years of shlichus being away from the Rebbe, I did.
You did shlichus already?
I did shlichus and Beis Safa, more than was agreed lechatchila. So after Morristown, I'm not going to go to shlichus. I said clearly, you want to send me to Australia, whatever it was. I said clearly, I'm not going anywhere. It doesn't make a difference. I had my shlichus, my whole life I was on shlichus. I was 2 years in shlichus, now I'm in 770. And they realized that's it, there's nobody to talk to. And I came to 770, and of course they didn't want to let me in because I was only 20 years old. So at that time, we didn't allow Bochrim come 20 years old. It was mamish. I had a whole with David Raskin. Didn't want to accept me as a Talmud in Ashura. I made a deal with him that I'm going to be every morning 7:30 by Chassidus. I won't miss one day. Every morning he used to come and check on me. And Baruch Hashem, they let me to 770, and it was in 770. From even Mem Dalet, when I was in Morristown,
You did every Shabbos,
every Shabbos. Every Shabbos I came.
Every Shabbos?
Every Shabbos. And I was never Shabbos in Morristown. I don't know what...
I was in Morristown, and I was here by the Eil every Shabbos, but Anhal told me one Shabbos you must stay, so I was only one Shabbos in Morristown.
I never saw Shabbos in Morristown. I don't know what it looks like. And actually, the reason that they let me go was because if there would be a surprise farbrengen, I would chazer over the farbrengen in yeshivah. That was the night. That in any case, any Shabbos there was a farbrengen, I used to chazer farbrengen in yeshiva afterward. So that's what they gave me permission every Shabbos to go. In case there's a surprise farbrengen, I'm going to be the, at least I'm going to be able to chazer after Shabbos I should come back right away and chazer the farbrengen. So that was...
So from Mem Dalet to the Mem Hey, Mem Vav, Mem Zayin,
and then Mem Hey till end of Mem Tes, I was in 770. I'm 75 years.
Oh wow! So let me ask you about that. So I want to hear about the years that you were in 770, in Morristown 770. But B'chlal, before I get there, so you're coming from Italy, and yet you come here, and then you leave. But what was it like, that shinui, that all of a sudden you're by the Rebbe, b'kvius? Like what was that? What was that like for you?
No, first of all, already from Tavshim Mem, I was by the Rebbe b'kvius in a certain way. When we were in Ocean Parkway, of course, Shabbos we were by the Rebbe, and we used to try to, whenever we had a chance to come. Interesting, Mem Aleph, you'll see, there were many, many surprise farbrengens. And I remember, we used to be like already a Seder. We used to hear, that's it, surprise farbrengen, a surprise sicha. We used to run the street, grab the first car, and run at 770. It was like, we were more living in 770 than in, I'll give you a dugma, Friday, coming back from Mitzrayim, right away to 770. Motzei Shabbos, we were the whole night in 770, when there was the famous revolution, it was Chveichi, right? So I was there in 770. We used to hang around 770 the whole time. Like any free moment, we were in 770. Of course, we had to learn yeshiva, but the free time, what does the Baruch do in the free time? He goes 770. You run 770 for a mincha, and 770 for a ma'ariv, whatever. Whenever we were able to run out of the yeshiva and be able to come 770, that was any moment was. In Kemuvim, for example, Pesach, I never went home. And of course, Tisha, nothing to talk about, but I didn't want to go home, Bichlal. That's why I was zeichet to be here, Memalev, by the Birchas Hachama, and everything. I never went home for Pesach. There was not such a thing. From I left Italy, I never was back home for Pesach. I knew that I came to the Rebbe, and that's it. There's nothing else. And that's why leaving for those 2 years was very, very, very hard. It was mamish, heartbreaking, and I decided that's it. I'm not going to do it ever again. And then come to 770 already, that was incredible. Actually, Mem Dalet already in Morristown was, I could say that then we were mamish modgelebt in 770. It was like, the whole, everything was around 770.
So you mentioned that you did chazara in the yeshiva. So, I mean, you're a young bacher at that point. But I'm saying right away you were able to focus and make sure you're understanding the farbrengens and like.
I look back now, I say I didn't understand anything. I was very stupid. I didn't nicht gehabt. But yes, we tried. First of all, if there was a winter month, I used to go to Chazar of Rabbi Berel afterwards, and then come back to the yeshiva. Sometimes when it was a surprise farbrengen and it was already so late, and the whole yeshiva is waiting, so I didn't even have time to go to Chazar. So, but the Seder was Bichlal, that after the farbrengen, everybody used to sit around and chazer the farbrengen. On Shabbos.
You're saying the Fisher Chazara is Matzah Shabbos?
Actually, by Rebbe also on Shabbos they used to make chazara. Right away after the farbrengen, they used to sit with Rebbe and make chazara. And
in
then
770?
No, in his house. But in 770 also, wherever people went, the Seder was, but the Rebbe finished farbrengens, with Tzachevegezets, and that's it. What was the first Sikh, the second Sikh, everything. We went through everything again. And then Motzei Shabbos was the big official Chazorah, which with a tape and writing it down, v'chulu. But right away after the farbrengens, Lachit on Chazorah. So it was automatically that, when you knew that you have to make Chazorah, you also heard the farbrengens in a different way, which was a Chesaron also. It's not only Meile, because you're trying to remember the Seder Advarim, and so you're concentrating on remembering. Sometimes you're not concentrating so much on understanding. But in a certain way, it's also a certain bittul, because you want to hear the Rebbe, you don't want to understand it, and then you're going to process it and you're going to get to it. Bechamot geleb with the farbrengens, it's hard to explain to somebody today, but once there was a farbrengens on Shabbos, the whole week the koch was an incredible koch in the farbrengens. The liquid that came out, the whole week was non-stop, the liquid. In the pockets you had the liquid, and it's like the same way today, people in Rambam, let's say, right? And you have this, any free moment you're going to learn Rambam, and it was mamish, the Rebbe's shlichus, farbrengens, liquid.
So the whole concept that I remember I had a Milan used to tell us that Chassidus Shabbat always has shlichus in the pocket.
We used to say, why do we have pockets in our jackets? In order to have one pocket of liquid, one pocket of anocha, and that's where you live the whole mamish, the whole week. And the koch was not only about learning it was ha'aros and mifal.
You were involved with the artists, no?
Yeah, Marston, that year Memdalit, that was in the Horus, which was an amazing year for Horus. Was probably the year of Horus.
So explain a little bit about what the Horus is. The Horus is
there were different Horus. Was in 770 started the Horus originally, but actually those years Memdalit was very, very schwach. In 770 almost didn't go out. Then there was the Horus of Oratera and the Horus of Marston. By the way, the Rebbe Mamish gave a Horus between the different Horus, so they shouldn't be copying and, it should be B'tiyum. But that year it was a...
What do you mean?
Huh?
What do you mean there should be B'tiyum?
That they shouldn't print the same ideas, and if somebody has a shot in one place, they shouldn't answer.
It should be unique.
They should be coordinated.
Okay.
So but Memdalet, the koch by the Rebbe in Horus was incredible. First of all, whatever, the Etzem Minyan that the Rebbe pushed on Mizoshay ben Horus was, you heard it again and again. The Rebbe wanted people to ask shaylas, and the Rebbe wanted the Mizozach kochen, and forget that
the shaylas on the Rebbe's farbrengens, right?
And
that's the idea.
99% of Horus in those years was on the farbrengens and the liquid. And with Gleb mit the Zeit, so it mainly was on that liquid and that farbrengens. That was mainly the Horus. Somebody once wrote a Horus on the Rashi, people started, laughing. What schreibt the Horus for Rashi? That's not what the Horus is all about. Like, we schreibt a pilpul. Schreibt a pilpul, put into Kevis Pilpulim. It was a different special place that the Rebbe Mamish wanted Bochum to put in a lot of koich. The Rebbe said that you go to the yeshivah, you show what the Talmidim wrote in Pilpulim, v'chulu. But Horus at Mimim was a place where it's like gekocht in the Rebbe's last memoriam in Siches and the liquid. And somehow that year Memdalet, but the Rebbe was an incredible koch. In all the years you saw, the Rebbe came down Friday night, in the back of the Siddur was all the kevtzim, and the Rebbe by Kabbalah Shabbos, the Rebbe used to mamish look at the kevtzim. You could see the Rebbe was mamish reading hour after hour, and he used to think, we used to try to watch, maybe the order that I wrote, the Rebbe is reading it, and what is the Rebbe going to talk about on Shabbos?
Because the Rebbe interacted with the artists, right?
Mamish, almost every farbrengens the Rebbe spoke about the order. And if the Rebbe didn't speak about the orders, then Motzei Shabbos mitamol, the kevitz came out to the mareches with the arrow. The mareches, the Rebbe sent out the kevitz with the orders in Ksaviyat Koche. And one of the special thing was that the Seder was that who got Kisvei Yad with the Rebbe in those years? Nobody. There was not such a thing as getting Ksaviyat.
Unless you worked in the Siches
or in the Siches, or in the Anoches, or the Kevtzim. Those were the only people that got Kisvei Yad. And all of a sudden you're getting Ksaviyat with the Rebbe because the Rebbe sent it to the Marechet. It wasn't an answer to a Shaila. All the answers, the masker showed you what the Rebbe wrote. You were able to be maitik, and that's it. And the Rebbe took it back. And this came to the Koch and the whole, and the Rebbe spoke by farbrengens, but was mit gefragt, and the Rebbe is the Shaila in Rashi, and the Rebbe said them is all entferen. And then the whole week was a Koch to try to answer the Shaila the Rebbe wrote. And then after everybody wrote all their machshavas and everything, hundreds of people, they were koching the whole week, try to figure out the answer. Comes the Rebbe Shabbos and he gives an answer which is completely like...
It's very interesting that the Rebbe also the Rebbe's
teaching.
The teacher also sharp. Like the Rebbe sharp with like that.
Sharp
with,
wasn't the word sharp. The Rebbe mamish. Dem entfer. We can have been chomish lemikra even as entfer. And every answer the Rebbe knocked it out. Was git men an elch entfers? The Rebbe was trying to. Noch sehr viel Jahren, the Rebbe gekocht in Rashi, the Rebbe gave a kivun and a me'alech and everything. All of a sudden, you keep on answering these answers, which are out of the. What are you answering? Like, are we talking about Ben Chomesh Lemikra Rashi? What are you? And the answers of the Rebbe were like mind-boggling. Like, it was incredible to see how the Rebbe gave an answer that nobody b'chav was shaykh to think about. I mean, one of the famous ones was about Le'echer Skelev L'Sheinei. And what's the Avamina? What's the Ness as Le'echer Skelev L'Sheinei? Why should they? They gave so many different answers from Mefarshim, Chizkun. It was mamish. The whole week, the whole 770, all Lubavitch was Kochenzach. Like, who's going to get the answer? The Rebbe's going to come and say, oh, finally somebody got the answer. What was the answer of the Rebbe? Why Le'echer Skelev? Because it was Tesva B'Cheidesh. Und wenn Chomisch die Mikro weiß, wenn geht zurück von Cheidesh, schon spät bei Nacht, und so da die Levone, der Hund, the Kelev is the one that actually is like, he makes these barks on the Levone. And even though it was that, it didn't happen. I mean, only the Rebbe could have such an answer, like the famous thing is, Ashale was the Rebbe frek, no the Rebbe can enter him. Like the Rebbe frek, nicht Ashale, was andere can frek.
I think the Rebbe always says a lot of times that the things are so pashut, therefore nobody realizes it, and that's the problem. We're not using your.
But Rebbe wanted the Chassidim to start understanding Milan a pasuk mit Rashi.
It's a very interesting thing that I don't think is talked about enough. That the Elam was pashut, interacting with the Rebbe. Like
I'll tell you, even more than interacting, if you want to say it in a grobe way, the whole Lubavitch was waiting for the farbrengens. It was like the Rebbe built this. It wasn't just, okay, he's going to come to... Rebbe made it, push it, then, man soll sich zuhören and verstehen, and every word was like, it's incredible to think of the way the Rebbe not only can move in thousands of people in the room, no microphone, the noise from the air conditioners and everything, and you could hear a pin drop, but the attention, even though the Rebbe spoke about many times, and Mishlov Befabrengen, but the truth is, I mean, I'm sure the Rebbe meant there was one person sleeping, bothered the Rebbe, Mr. But the Elam was, it's incredible to imagine how focused you are for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. It's like today, when you watch a farbrengen, and people watch a whole farbrengen, and people don't have the patience to sit and through a whole farbrengen. You're talking about farbrengen after farbrengen after farbrengen, and the amount of information, you have to also internalize it and live with it. And it was incredible how the Rebbe was able to, every farbrengen come. I remember as a bocher, as a young kid, I used to say, Rabbi Berel Farbrengens, more or less he repeats the same things time after time. There's no chidushim, there's nothing new. Okay, it's geschmack to hear it again. There was not once that the Rebbe repeated the same thing by farbrengen. The Rebbe didn't already said once before. There was not such a thing ever. Every farbrengen was chidushim and chidushim and chidushim and chidushim. And to get this information and to try to grow with this information was incredible. Like, from everything, I mean, there's certain moments, and talking about, being with the Rebbe Tishrei, certain moments there were Poshet, the Tkiyas, and Birch Sabonim, and Akofes. Those was just incredible, just to be able to watch it for a second, right? And you're there for time after time. But there was nothing like a farbrengen. As much as all these Giluyim, you want to know the atmosphere of the Rebbe, the koch with the Rebbe, Tzcharangelek in the farbrengen was incredible. The Rebbe used to scream by farbrengen for hours. People don't realize the whole 770, and you could hear the Rebbe anywhere you were standing, and the Rebbe was mamish, gegossen, everything. And
so, and what's interesting is that for us today, Hakafis and Birchas Habanim, I mean, that's not available for us, but the farbrengens are available.
Right, but they're available, but it's not the same. I don't want to make anybody disappointed, but watching farbrengen in a video and watching and being by farbrengen, it's two worlds.
Explain why.
Because I give you a dogma, just an example. When the Rebbe said a Maimer, from the moment that the Nigun Achone started, people also don't, lately I've seen people mix it up. There's Achone when you say Maimer, there's a Chana when the Rebbe says a Maimer. The Rastover is when the Rebbe says a Maimer.
By bar mitzvahs, they seem to do it for some reason, yeah.
But when the Nigun, by me, till today, when I hear the Nigun, a Chana to the Maimer of the Rebbe, I get a shiver. By me, Mamish, till today, you have no idea what happened in the room at that moment. It wasn't like you felt that's it. It's the Shechina is coming down, Kipshut, and not only Shechina, but the Beres Meter Grene. You see the Shechina, Be'efan Golui, and the Rebbe face changed completely. Like, the Rebbe went into a different, I don't know how to call it, mode, world, whatever. The Rebbe, till then, the Rebbe was talking to us, and then you see that the Rebbe is somewhere else. From the moment that they started singing the Nigun, it wasn't only, and that's it. And when the Rebbe started singing the Maimer, was like, it's impossible to describe what it means that your neshama hears, Kabbalah Satera, Har Sinai. It's like, was, if normally you say, Atzmus Mus Melubash Beguf Gashmi, there's no Guf Gashmi. It's like, it's something else. So you try to see that through a video. It's impossible. You can't...
Among Chassidim is brought to you by Chassidische Der Herr. We live in a chaotic world. A world where for us Chassidim, as a Seinu, Lei Ra'inu, we do not have the ability to hear and see the Rebbe on a daily basis. Yet we know that the Rebbe is very much with us, and the Chassidus Chabad is alive and thriving more than ever before. One needs to only tap into it. Chassidische Der Herr provides you and your family with the tools necessary to tap into all of this. Whether it's the monthly magazine, the way it all began, whether it's Der Herr books, Der Herr online content, and so much more. Men, women, and children throughout the world benefit and use these tools on a daily basis. Whether it's children enjoying the children's magazine that comes along with the regular Der Herr, or enjoying the children's podcast, whether it's Bachrim in yeshivas receiving the Der Herr, whether it's girls in high schools enjoying Der Herr club in their local high school. People all over the world and from all walks of life enjoy and utilize these tools and take advantage of it. If you're not already subscribed to the Herr Monthly Magazine, do so today at derher.org. That's derher.org. Der Herr is a dynamic organization which is committed to continue providing these tools, grow on a constant basis, and do all that we can to help this effort. Baruch Hashem, it takes a lot of resources and finances to make this all happen. You can be part of Der Herr through your financial support as well, through visiting our website derher.org, or through contacting us to setting up a meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
So you're basically, what I'm hearing is that in your mind, the primary, I don't know what we call it, hashpa of the Rebbe is like primarily the farbrengens.
For sure, if you're talking about the way the Rebbe changed us, was through farbrengen.
You're talking about the
interaction,
the experience, or you're talking about what the Rebbe was saying?
Everything. The farbrengen, I mean, everything else was amazing. To be by Shachris and Mincha, to dollars, everything was incredible. Like to watch the Rebbe walk in 770, walk out of 770, and anything that happened, like whatever happened was incredible. But the feeling that the Rebbe is changing you, and the feeling that you are mamish connecting with the Rebbe in a very pneumatic way, is for sure the farbrengen. Nothing like it. After every farbrengen, you have to understand that in those days people didn't farbring too much. Chassidim didn't farbring. But one thing was, after every farbrengen, people used to walk out and be drunk. Was after every farbrengen, what you felt by Chassidim, and you saw it in the air, you saw it was wow, this was incredible. This was never, there was never such a farbrengen ever. Every farbrengen there was never such a farbrengen ever. And the chidushim, whether the first sikha, the second sikha, was incredible. It was mamish
So let me ask you, maybe there's, throughout your years in 770, are there, I don't know, one or two or three particular farbrengens that stick out in your mind as, that were I don't know, a chiddush, had a big hashpah and a big change on you, like something that sticks out?
So for sure in our years was the tkufa, first of all, of shlichus, right? And of course the kinus shluch and the farbrengen, but it was only the kinus, was the weeks sometimes before and after, but in those, the nekud of shlichus, the way the Rebbe came back to it again and again, not only the lomdus of shlichus and the idea of shlichus, vidav the aveda of shluchim, and the way the Rebbe showed that, there's nothing better than shluchim. From our class, everybody went out on shlichus. There's not one person who didn't go out on shlichus. It wasn't shayach. Like, the Rebbe was mamish at gemont, and like they say in the last, in the yuds, like, yutches, yutes, the koch was about shlichus, tav shechov. And then slowly there were a lot of other themes on the table, right? And then in the middle of the mems, that's when again picked up and shlichus became the theme. Every farbrengen was about Chabad and shlichus and everything.
Some of the later mems.
Yeah. I'm talking about from when I came to 770. Mem Mem Vav started, and then Mem Zayin, of course, was like, but shlichus was the nekuda atzmus of a farbrengen, and every farbrengen was another bombshell about shlichus. Like you mamish felt that the Rebbe is teaching you how to do the aveda and how to what it means to go to shliach, and where you see shlichus in the Torah. Mamish the koch was like all the pashas told this vayetze vayishlach. It was ongoing. It was like that for sure was one of the highlights. But then depends if you look at again. There's memorim that was able to hear, and then there was sometimes farbrengen when the Rebbe spoke about the Indian and went another farbrengen, the next farbrengen, and the Rebbe went on, and people asked shilas, and the Rebbe had to going back, and whether it was the status in the kinus Torah or was again the Rashi sich, anything was just incredible. Was
so you were, maybe I'll ask you about this a little bit. I mean, you lived through the whole tkuf of the Svarim.
Right. I didn't live through it. We were in some 70s, so that's...
You were there. Your body was there. And the Neshama was there. And all the Neshamas were there. Your body was there.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, this is something you can speak about for hours, the whole situation. But first of all, people today, after the Nitzochen, people take it for granted there should have been a Nitzochen. The truth is, that wasn't the Avirah. Like, al pi derech hateva, nobody understood even how it's going to be such a Nitzochen. Like, the whole worry, for sure.
I heard from other people different things. Like,
no, this was sure. Listen, the people that understood, you spoke to people that were involved, they didn't know how this was going to end. You have to understand that Piderech HaTeva, somebody that is poor and he's asking, give me a little, like, I have no money. Why did he take this for him? Because he wanted to sell them, he wanted to make money. So on one end you have somebody that claims that he wants to get a Yerusha, he wants to get something, he didn't get anything, he got zero. And then this is this community that has endless amount of resources and just give me a little money and that's it. Like, and any shefet will try to make some kind of pshara. Like today you see, like, you don't go 100% on one side. And then it was the whole question, it's going to be a jury, won't be a jury. And then they took the shefet, when Sifton name came up, it was a big, big discussion. Is it good for us, not good for us? And move on. And then came the time of the mishpat of the Sfarim. The biggest chassidim, they were supposed to testify for us, it wasn't easy. I mean, practically most of them failed. I don't want to say names. But because it's not easy to explain this, what was trying to be brought out. I mean, everybody talks today about the Rebbetzon's, the position, whatever it's called. It was above and beyond any of all the big mumchim that were prepared for hours and everything, and nobody did such a job. Nobody was able to bring out the point.
We've seen the guys that got up in the stand.
Right. And the cross-examination wasn't easy. These lawyers are professional people to bring you to a corner and then you're stuck, and you can't lie, and you have to. It wasn't easy. You're sitting there in the hall. I was there every day. I was lucky because it was a girl who could go in. We're getting very upset at the Lubavitchers. We took over the whole place. It was like 70 moved to the courtroom, and there was noise and everything. And they were saying, "Listen, look what they're doing and everything." But Berel, whichever bocher from the Israelis that was Zeicher Begerel, he couldn't understand anything what was going on, so they gave me their place. I was there, Baruch Hashem, every day.
What do you mean?
The way there was some chassidim that came every day and sat in the front row, Rabbi Mentlik, v'chulu, and then there were a certain number of seats for the bochrim. So let's say there were 25 places for bochrim. So from the whole 770, they made a gerel which bochrim could go in to be there during the hearings. So when the name of an Israeli bochrim came up, what would he do? He would go in and not understand anything. So he asked me, I should go in and write down what's going on and send out. So the whole time, B'shas Ma'aseh. So I was there writing down everything, and every page that was written up, I sent it out.
So they were passing on your papers?
Yeah, so they went out from the courtroom, the bochrim were waiting outside to hear what's going on. So I had to write quick and finish a paper and send it out, and write and send it out. That's how I got the place to be inside. So I was there for all the hearings.
You were the maniach of the court case.
At that time, we thought that actually we didn't even understand that they're writing a stenogram, and then we thought that we were going to publish this one day. And then Rebbe said, Chas v'shon to the Megillas, the Notzach, that was mamish very strong against. We had a plan that we were going to print an encyclopedia with the horrors and everything, the issues that were discussed by the...
And by the way, till today, I mean, people have it, but it's not...
Right,
all the
Rebbe didn't want it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they wanted all this svarim about the Notzach. There came out a whole bunch of svarim today.
Right.
Some svarim came out about the whole court case.
Oh, books about it, yeah.
Yeah, the story. I'm not sure that that's what the Rebbe wanted. Whatever, it's to hear the Sikha again and hear the Lashon of the Rebbe was very, very sharp, not to... whatever. But to expect that the Psak Din would be the way it was, I don't think too many people expected such a nitzochen. And you have to understand, it wasn't only we're going to win or not win. There was the whole Lubavitch was on the stake. If, or let's see, right, we understand now that it would have been impossible. But if the Rebbe would have lost, the Rebbe didn't take the Sfarim as the issue of the Sfarim. The Sfarim was in the Sir, the Sfarim was everything. It was like, and everything. From the Alter Rebbe, it was clear that this is going to be like...
The Rebbe says, I'm the Alter Rebbe and all the Rebbeim, right?
You could hear Mamish Rebbe saying it, but the farbrengens was...
The Rebbe talking to Rashag when the Rebbe said
right, but the Rebbe was screaming.
You were able to hear it?
Mamish. Rashag came over and he was trying to calm the Rebbe down. The opposite happened. The Rebbe Mamish was... And...
so what did he hear? That the Rebbe said Samacham and Kegen...
The Alter Rebbe, the Mitte Rebbe, and Samach Tzedek, the Rebbe Dushver, it was Mamish, was... the Rebbe said all the Rebbeim. But the Rebbe, this was clear, it was a milchame about yeshivah. It wasn't about... and to expect such an nitzochen, very few people. I remember going on the train to the court case, and they had to prepare, like they were working overtime, like the day before was a hearing, and then they had to work the whole, preparing for the next hearing. We're going to be the next, and trying to get as much as you can. And the Rebbe says to do one thing, and people, they listen to the Rebbe, but they should say what the Rebbe says in their avonah. And it wasn't, the Rebbe's argument wasn't a normal court case argument. But people can move and, what the Rebbe said, that's what happened.
So you're saying that the great simcha of Hetevis...
I'm saying big chassidim, they were very, very worried. Very worried.
And you're saying because of that explains the tremendous simcha of Hetevis.
I say because it's the same way that you speak about Yud Beis Tammuz or Yutas Kislev, that was a moment, if not Chassidus would have ended, I believe that Al Piderach HaTeva, if Chas v'Sholom, again, would have been impossible, the same way Yutas Kislev, without Yutas Kislev wouldn't have been impossible.
So I don't think people understand what that means. Why?
Why? Because by the Rebbe, this was as if you're saying, as that's it, Yud Shvat Tov Shin Yud, Lubavitch stopped existing. So the whole afterwards is not really... It's not really the truth. It's not really, and has to be le'enei chol ha'amim, and has to be that the world recognizes as the Rebbe is the Rebbe. And if you come and say that it's a Yerusha, the Rebbe is not the Rebbe. That's Betzim the Shaila. So it wasn't about who's going to get this for him. It was about where's the Nosei. Will the world recognize that the Rebbe is the Rebbe? And again, the Rebbe could have made Shah Shtil. Nobody knew about it. He got this for him, and that's it. And nobody would have known. Nobody should have known. Al Piderach HaTeva, the way the world runs, people would have suggested to the Rebbe.
They did,
Okay.
I think, no?
Yeah, I'm saying, and that's it. Let's keep it quiet. Buy back this for him. The guy's gonna have some money, and that's it. Nobody's gonna hear it. There won't be no chil Hashem, no talk, no danger, no risk. V'chulu. So the matzah. Why am I saying it? That the lachatz was incredible. I mean, I'll give you a dugma. At a certain point, the Baruch decided they're gonna say Tillim every day before Seder Chassidus. 6 o'clock in the morning, 770 was packed every single day. 6 o'clock to 7:30 till
The only time in history. Yeah.
no, there was another time after
After
Rabbi Tevis.
Oh, okay. After the Rebbe spoke the Sikha, yeah.
That was 770 was
But 6 o'clock in the morning.
right.
Yeah.
6 o'clock after mikveh, 770 was packed every single day. And again, the lachatz was incredible. And you saw in the Rebbe the lachatz, and everything was like was not a easy tkufa, but.
So the moment of Hey Tevis was like a burst of
For sure.
relief. What a simcha. What
The
is
simcha was, first of all, just you should understand, was border kashemesh by us that Mashiach is coming in 5 minutes. It wasn't a shaila. The same way that, I remember Yidalef Nisan Membeis, was border kashemesh, Meinim Shana, that's it. That's it, Mashiach is coming. And Yidalef Nisan, like people were waiting any moment, when is it going to happen? Yidalef Nisan was over, and Mashiach didn't come. So then also, Zayin Oder, till Yidalef Nisan, and Meshach Rabbeinu, till Pesach, so it's also going to be like Beimer. And it's all of a sudden really, Membeis, Shmeinu Shana, Mashiach didn't come, was like a shock. Like, we were so sure. But after the Nitzochen, after Hey Tevis, was klar as Mashiach get coming. Like, people thought that that's it. The Simcha, with this Simcha, we're going to go into the Geula. It was klar. This was like the biggest Nitzochen ever. Sadly, with Nishdechi given.
So what do you say about that?
That the question of Admosa is it's a strong question. Has no answer.
See, that was a hype that.
Yes, and we felt that. I mean, Rabbi spoke then was even greater than Yutas Kislev, greater than everything. Hecher Fanaz, the Moir, v'chulu. But we felt that we are not only witnessing, Yutas Kislev or Yud Beis Tammuz or whatever. Like, this never happened in history. It was like you were there, a moment of. Actually, it was interesting because with the Serusa de Sata, the whole everything when they announced that the Rebbe will come down to Mincha, like
On Hey Tevis.
and we didn't expect that to happen in those few hours.
Because the Rebbe davened upstairs.
No, the Rebbe was davening upstairs always. I'm saying, but Bechlal, even the reaction of the Rebbe to the surah, we heard right away with the way the Maskirim came out, and like the Rebbe, and we were going crazy, and all of a sudden they announced the Mincha downstairs. When Mincha is downstairs also, the Mincha, we thought this will be some chastera v'chulu, no tachnun and everything, and Baruch Hashem, there was a chosen there, and he saved the situation.
The Rebbe started saying. I mean, the Rebbe, there was a Sikha, the Rebbe spoke.
After the Rebbe spoke, and the Sikh was also. So the young Chassidim, the Mittel Rebbe.
Which is interesting because actually the Rebbe said this other times that it's the Mittel Rebbe that explained Rebbe the site, but other times it says that it's the Achiv HaMaril, I think.
Right.
Yeah, but I heard the Rebbe said it other times also before this. So
the young Chassidim, the word young Chassidim was like that was the gushpank. Okay, you guys are crazy, but
you guys are doing the right thing. I mean, listen, but the Pile of the Rebbe, and people talk about it, that the Rebbe's reaction wasn't on the same wavelength as the Eilim, but the Pile of the Rebbe said a Sikha every night then.
Right, and also the Sikh upstairs in some 70 about writing to the Eil and everything. I mean, for sure was like, but if the Simcha was the way the Rebbe expected there should be the Simcha, you have to understand people were like, we didn't go back to our rooms. We were like in some 70 or Miftzayim or whatever. It was a week later we came back to our room. We didn't recognize when we left. Like was.
So I think it doesn't make sense for me to sit with you and not ask you about shlichus in Russia. So I want to know a little bit about how it began, and also this was all at the time of before the fall of communism and after the fall of communism. And when I was growing up, this wasn't stories that people were living through this, or like it was fresh. But I think today, I don't think people take it for granted that there was the whole different matziv and there's a whole shlichus of how it happened. So, how did you get involved in this, and how did it start?
No, first of all, even when I was a little kid, you saw in the shlichus and we heard, and the way the Rebbe tzach gekocht wegen what's going on in Russia was every farbrengens, Rebbe L'chaim v'chulu was a known thing that this is mamish. The same way there's Miyudi and there's Shleimus Oretz, there's Russian Jews. Like this was the issue that the Rebbe was mamish, and he saw the Rebbe crying when the Rebbe spoke about Russian Eden, what's going on in the Soviet Union. Was you had to be Leva Evan, that when the Rebbe spoke about what's going on, they wouldn't touch you. The Rebbe would cry in front of the Elam, like in ways that, and nothing else. I don't think there was anything else that the Rebbe Pashat cried, and you saw like the weight took. And going back to how did I get involved? So first of all, the whole Avira in Lubavitch was about that, number one. And of course, hearing stories about what's going on, not what was Geshen Amol, what was going on in those years. You know, people used to hear in bits, and Berel Levi coming back and showing the Rebbe the videos, and then Katz going to Russia, and then different stories of then when some people started coming out of Russia. I remember when Nizi Kogan came to 770 and other Chassidim, they came out. It was like this very, very, everything was a secret, everything was quiet, nobody could know anything. But then all of a sudden, the Rebbe started sending more and more shluchim, mainly rabbonim, to Russia. So it was, again, people used to go up to get mashke, and they didn't announce anything, so
Everyone knew.
So everybody more or less thought that probably that is that, but you can't even talk about it. You're not allowed to talk. And Kemuvan, starting from like Be'emer Tav Shemem, the Sikh in Russian, and then Memalef, the Rebbe spoke in Russian, some 70, nobody understood a word. The Rebbe speaking to, everybody understood that something is going on, something is happening. So I believe that every Bocher then had a dream that maybe one day they'll go to Russia, and they started sending Bocherim. At a certain point, they started sending Bocherim. I don't think there was any Bocher that in some 70 in those years that didn't have a dream that it would be Zeiche. So when they asked me, of course, right away I said I'm ready to go, but you have to get shus from the Anholer, shus from the parents, and then write to the Rebbe. And when I went, it was a chidush, because what happened till then, they used to send Rabbonim mainly, and used to come to Russia for a week, give shiurim, and then a few months later another Rav came, Mashpia, whatever. And again,
who is there? Who are they going to?
They're going to all the, first of all, there were still very few, but there were some Chassidim from the mall that stayed.
Reb Gertje,
right? Mainly Reb Gertje, but also there are a few more, and they made the Balei Tshuvas, more or less. They're the ones that convinced young people that were interested to start learning, but nobody was teaching them. So the biggest problem they had that there was nobody teaching. So it's to bring Rabbonim mainly to teach. But each Rav came with his shiurim, and he gave whatever, somebody taught Hilchos Shabbos, somebody else something else, and then and they used to leave, and then the next Rav came, and then he gave shiurim on a different topic. So people were getting all mixed up, like how could you learn in such a way? So they decided they're going to start a yeshivah. The yeshivah will be meeting in apartments, yeshiva on wheels, every day somewhere else, but the Bochrim and the younger light could come to shiurim, Mesuda, and start learning in Alma Masechta, and Hemshech, and Memorim, v'chulu. So when I went, actually, that was the first group that started going for a month and a half. The idea was to teach, and then the new group would come and take over, and this way you have almost the whole time. You have teachers, and they're learning. They started learning Gemara and Aloha and Chassidus, but we're learning Be'amkus, like Gemara with Mefarshim and Ashrenim, Achreinim, Hemshech Samach Vav, whatever. There were people that were very, very intelligent and moved on. So the main thing was actually teaching. That was our shlichus. If Rabboni was also paskening shayles and issues, but else was mainly from morning to night teaching the people there. And that's it. And then groups of Bochum started going. So it became a very, very in thing to go to Russia. Every month a new group went. And Baruch Hashem, I was zeicher to go 3 times as a Bocher. So it was Normally people went once and that's it. It was enough for them. Like they had the experience.
They did it.
They had the experience, and it wasn't an easy experience. You have to teach from 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock at night. And the whole time you're on this, and you have to prepare for it. You can't just come and teach. The people there were very, very intelligent. People used to, all of a sudden out of the blue, ask a stira between the hemshech here and the hemshech there, and like, as much information as you had, that's how you managed to get through, and that's it. And then, Baruch Hashem, after we got married, so a year later, the Rebbe, we wanted to go right after Shei Bracha, so we were ready to go.
So you somehow connected to the Indian of Russia. You went back numerous times, and then so that's you decided you're going there permanently.
I went there many times as a bocher, 3 times, which was very rare in those years. But I was very, very connected to the people there. Even when I came back, when I had the lunch break in yeshivah, I used to run to Azasachim, which was the organization that was in touch with the people there. I used to call and ask them, what do you need? What can we send? And what are the problems? And whatever. I tried to shoot them on the phone.
Right, so when you're here, you were on the phone with them.
Right. And getting a phone line was also very difficult. You had to order it. It wasn't easy. And one of the things was also sometimes the shlichus to the Rebbe, so they could ask me and then I would send in the zettel. So whatever, it was very special to be connected to these, I believe.
So you were giving over answers from the Rebbe
Not
to these
all.
people?
Some
of them.
Things went, but it was very, very special to be connected to these people. MSM Sechsidim. The amazing thing was that they never saw the Rebbe, but they were mekusharim biskashrus in an incredible way. Like everything, miftzoim, mamash, mesiras nefesh, for anything with the Rebbe. Like, I'll give you a dugma, when the new nigun of Vidal Nissen came, so they all gathered to be able to have a phone call and hear the nigun. And then everything, every hero, every farbrengen, what the Rebbe speak about, was like, they wanted mamash, they had an incredible thirst to hear what's going on, but they were mamash disconnected, so we felt that we could try to give them as much as we can. After Sheva Brachas, me and my wife wrote to the Rebbe that we were ready to go on shlichus to Russia. And the community there was asking us to come. And the Rebbe said no. That the first year, the Rebbe answered, Ki yadua, to be in the shchuna, the nesheyu b'nei Yisrael, hamedaikim b'teira mitzvahs. So it was more about my wife than about me.
They should be in a community that has nesheyu b'nei. I guess because Russia's a wasteland.
Right. So a year later,
so she stayed in Kail, went to Kail for a year.
And then that was Tafshin Nun, which was also, that was spoke then so much about Russia. Preferred that was to speak about Russia, but the problems and then I was breaking this iron curtain, and then they started speaking about the Nissen that we see, which was incredible. They once used the Lashon Aschalta de Geula, what's going on in Russia.
It's crazy.
And then...
So when you moved there, was right after the fall?
No, it was before the fall. It was still the Soviet Union, was still communism, but it got much easier. When I first came the first time, which was Cheshvan Memches, then was mamish the beginning. You saw the beginning. Nobody believed it's actually happening and it's true. Nobody understood what it meant that they are saying, these words, glasnost, perestroika, whatever. They were going to make changes. Nobody believed it's going to affect religion or whatever. They wanted to show Keilu that they're open, but there's still going to be communism. And communism was still there. And the Soviet Union was there, and Masach Barzel was there. So we saw some changes, but it was mamish nothing compared to what the Rebbe was saying it's going to happen.
And while you were there, that's when the whole thing...
And slowly you saw big changes. And then once we moved there on shlichus, so it was an incredible... It was once... We were already there, but the Rebbe spoke then Chanukah live in the Kremlin.
I was going to ask you about Chanukah live. Tell me about Chanukah live.
So what happened... there was first... Chanukah live was actually... When I wasn't there yet, was Tafshin Nun. Chanukah Tafshin Nun. And they did it then in the shul. It was not such a big crowd. Nun Aleph was already Chanukah Nun Aleph. We took a big hall, the Fierech, part of the television station, where the central television station is, so we could have a satellite that will really work well. And there were a few hundred people, was still a Fierech small. And then came Nun Beis, Chanukah Nun Beis, and that's when we thought, let's do it big. So we had this idea, what was the biggest hall? The biggest hall was in the Kremlin. It's a hall that has 6,000 places, and I had somebody helping me, and I told them that's it, we want to do it there. And this person actually said, you know what, we could try. The only one that can give permission is Gorbachev. He has to sign it. And that was the first religious event in the Kremlin.
Wow.
We're talking about the Kremlin, which was fighting religion, all of a sudden gives permission to make a religious event. When we finally got the permission, and actually Gorbachev himself signed, gave permission for it, then there were Chassidim that started screaming at me that I'm crazy. How could I do such a thing? Wild, Meshuga in the Kremlin, and the Rebbe is going to speak in the Kremlin. I felt at that time that
what was their opposition?
Because it's a place of Tumah, I don't know, it's a place that is not fit for the
They
Rebbe.
don't understand how...
These were big Chassidim, I'm not going to say their names. They were mamish, screaming. They were mamish, like... I decided, I'm going to write to the Rebbe. And I wrote the whole thing to the Rebbe. The people are saying maybe we shouldn't do it. But we already ordered the place, we already have the place, and we feel it's going to be a big Kiddush Hashem. And the answer was Asker Elatzion, which I didn't understand what it meant. But I asked then label Groner, what does it mean, Asker Elatzion? He said, if the Rebbe didn't want it to happen, the Rebbe would have told you not to do it. The Rebbe said Asker Elatzion, that says, go ahead, and you have the Rebbe's bracha, which was a miracle, the way everything happened. But there were 6,000 places. In a few hours, all the tickets were sold. And then people were trying to buy the tickets, ready to pay a meshuggah amount of money in those years to get into the Kremlin. When the event actually happened that night, there were probably 15,000 people trying to get into the hall. There was an anti-Semitic demonstration, like 50 people standing there. We're not going to let the Jews step on the holy stones of the Kremlin. It was like a mamish mapecha. But after the Rebbe spoke in the Kremlin, that's when the Soviet Union fell apart. And there was a sikha then.
What do you mean? I thought it was before. This is in the base you're talking about.
Hanukkah and base. That's when the flag of the Soviet Union came down from the Kremlin.
Oh, so my whole history needs some refreshing. So the end of the fall of communism was in the base.
Yes. The official ending of the Soviet Union.
They took the flag down.
That was after the Rebbe spoke in the Kremlin.
A
week later. I mean, you could look at the date and look at the sikhs of the Rebbe. The whole sikh of Tzarfas and Russia and the revolution, everything was... If you look at the farbrengens then of those weeks, around Chanukah and Beis, you see the Rebbe mamish telling what's going to happen.
Right. And you could see, I mean, the whole thing... I mean, you could see the Rebbe's attentiveness, the way the Rebbe's looking in the video.
That was incredible.
And I can imagine for the people...
The first time that the people saw the Rebbe. We're talking about a hall of 6,000 people. The first time they were able to see the Rebbe in Russia. But the halls, we put up signs in the city of Moscow about this concert is going to happen. And it was that the Rebbe is going to speak live from New York. And then in the streets of Moscow, you have the Rebbe's name on a big sign, and tickets are going to be sold. You can't sell the tickets on your own. You have to sell the tickets through the Kremlin offices. It was like in 3 hours you couldn't find a ticket. It was like crazy. It was mamish. Like.
So when you went to Russia, you had in mind. I mean, you thought that this was going to happen, or you had no idea at the time?
First of all, we went to Russia. It was the first moment that we got permission to go there for more than just a tourist visiting. And the first time we went as a bocher, we were tourists. Officially supposed to go touring, and they were following us, KGB after us, and staying in the hotel. You had to pay crazy amount of money because you were official tourists. What we were doing, we weren't allowed to do it really. And it's to sneak out of the hotel and then take the metro, the train, not because you can't take a taxi, because the taxi is also KGB people. They're going to see where you went. And people, the main thing wasn't us, was putting the local people in a risk. But thinking that it's going to change, the local people told us clearly that nothing is going to change. Like, don't even dream that things are going to change. It was clear. Like, even though they heard messages from the Rebbe, that the Rebbe said things are going to change, the people there said clearly, like, the Rebbe is talking about the Indian.
But you thought that, what do you mean? The Rebbe said it's going to change, or like whatever? I don't know.
We didn't understand what it means it's going to change. Like, we thought, okay, it's going to change, so it won't be so tough. There won't be a KGB next to each home of each chassid, and you couldn't talk to people in shul. You used to walk into shul, he's tell you can't talk to this person because the KGB is going to call him tomorrow and interrogate him, and he's going to say what happened. And like, after being there for a month and a half, you were afraid to talk you got into the plane, and we knew that's it. We left Russia. Took time to realize, you know what, you can start talking. You're under this fear. Like they put you into this, from the moment you land, they make you understand that they know exactly who you are and what you're doing, and we're following you, and be careful. So to think that it's going to change such a way, okay, we'll change. Something is going to change. But the mapecha that happened after when Rebbe spoke, Shnas Nisim, Ren Nifloes, Bakel, I mean, you look at the Sikha, that was mainly talking about Russia, like was incredible.
So Kol Shem Kal V'chemer, what happened later with the Meistis, with the buildings, with the whole taking over, that for sure was not
nobody dreamed that for sure nobody expected such a change in the country that was the biggest anti-Semitic country in the world, that today is probably one of the safest places in the world for Eden.
Yeah.
And everything is Chabad. Like somebody asks, like, what do you have besides Chabad? Like Chabad. Like so what's besides?
Another Chabad.
So the Rebbe Mamish
and the crazy thing is that this was something that the Rebbe, this was from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Rebbe, this was so near and dear and important place by the Rebbe, and then this and how it all transformed. So let me finish. Let's finish off. But I want to ask you one last question. You mentioned that the Rebbe said it's one of the simanim of the Geula, the fall of the Iron Curtain and everything, the whole mapecha. So some people ask, the Rebbe spoke in Tafshin Nun, Tafshin Aleph, at the siman of the Geula, things are changing, and the whole communism fell without a war. So is the world getting closer to that, or now we're back to Muhammad? Like Shliach's not here, 35 years. Like what's happening here?
So I'm not a maven to understand what's going on in the world for sure, and for sure not to be a Der Zoger and the Rebbe Siches, but this is the way I always think lately. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what is the Rebbe? First of all, it's very interesting when you start thinking about it. What is the Rebbe almost by every farbrengen in those years? Mainly Nun Aleph Nun Beis, but also Tavshin Nun started. The Rebbe sharing with the Chassidim the news, what's going on in the world. When was the Rebbe telling Chassidim what happened in the UN, what happened in this meeting, and what they read, and what they said, and what they wrote, and what the Chassidim have to be for bringing the news? Like, this doesn't make sense on one end. On the other hand, the Rebbe is speaking about already things, and everything, like, that's it, like dismantling all the, and you see what's going on today, it's mamish the opposite. Like, it completely turned around. So what the Rebbe's nevuah wasn't fulfilled. I think that the Rebbe wasn't telling us the news. The Rebbe was telling us what has to happen. The Rebbe was telling us a nevuah. At that moment was the beginning of the nevuah milmayla lemata, and now has to happen milmata lemayla. Now it has to be our work in order to make this happen, to make this a reality. So the Rebbe gave in Welt that this is the Metzius. The Metzius and Mitzvahs of the world is the way the Helem is going to go away, and it's going to be Gilui Lukus. Did it happen? No, we're not the Kelim yet that it should happen. It has to be Milmata L'mayla. The whole Chiddush of, in all the Sichas first of all, from the first Maimer and then the first Sichas, Yitrat of Shin Yud Aleph and Vata Tetzaveh, it's all about the Chiddushes, the Vedas Atachten, in order to make this what the Gul is all about. Mimayla L'matam, L'mata L'mayla, Atzmus, Begilui. So all this, the Rebbe is telling us the way it's going to be. The Rebbe is telling us, no, Nun Aleph, Nun Beis. You understand what the Nisim, Nifloes, Arena Nifloes, what is it going to be? That's exactly this is the way it's going to be. And the Rebbe is telling you not the news. Kemuvan the Rebbe is Malbish. The Rebbe is not going to tell you, and Tov, Shin, Pei, Vav, and Vav Tammuz, something is going to happen. Now the Rebbe is telling you, this is the plan, this is the way the Rebbe should bring everything down. Now, start working, now make it happen. So it's our Aveda to turn the Rebbe's words that come in Ma'ala Lamata, that should be we should be the Kalim to be Mekabel this. So, for sure, that the world is ready for this. For sure, the Rebbe Shenarog Gebrach Ne'inyan, the Gilum Il already took place. Now has to be the Mekabel, has to be the...
Now we have to do it.
Right.
To doubt was can't.
And what the Rebbe says, learning the Inyan of Mashiach, what does it mean? That once it becomes yours, it's not only the Rebbe said the Inyan of Mashiach. Learning the Inyan of Mashiach is learning the Sichas, right? But once it's not only the Rebbe saying the Sichas, it's you learning the Sichas and internalizing and becoming you, then that's the Geula.
Okay, so sein Bekarev Mamish, Yeshikeach.
Now.
Now, Yarech Yom Mamlachte.
The Melacha from the Rebbe.
It's Mamlechas Keinim, Gei Kaddish. Yedi is a Melech. Yedi Shliach.
Kein Godel.
Kein God. Tzlach Rabbi, thank you.